Hello, this is a little review for a little book that I recently listened to in audio, Made Things by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Tchaikovsky? I'm pretty sure it's Tchaikovsky. It's a number one of Made Things, so I think we can expect more from this universe. The ending, however, is adequate as an ending. It isn't forcing you to go read the next book to find out what happens, which I liked. So I listened to this on audio, and listened to it essentially because Adrian Tchaikovsky has written some excellent books which I really enjoyed in the past, and on my library's audio book collection I saw his name, and that was all I really needed. I knew from the artwork that this wasn't going to be a Dogs of War Barehead type thing, and I haven't really read that much by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I really have enjoyed the ones that I have read. So Made Things, as you will see from the thumbnail that I will put in front of this video, looks very fantasy-like, and it is. It starts with our main protagonist called Coppelia, who everyone calls Moppet. A phrase that I personally didn't enjoy in particular, and I feel like I would have been happier with the story arc in this book if by the end of it she got called her actual name instead of Moppet. Anyway, she is in the street square and she's putting on a performance with puppets that she herself has hand-carved because she's a bit of an artisan. And in the course of this scene where we first introduced to Coppelia, we are also introduced to her world, which is a city, and enough of the surrounds that Tchaikovsky actually very nicely builds a picture of her world, at least the world for us, and it's quite effortlessly. You don't have to work hard to find out what's happening with this one. So she's doing this puppet show with words that she'd written earlier for the puppets that she's created with very poor tools in her apartment in what is basically the slums. And she's in this square, and then she sees their version of the police, I think they call them blue caps, converging in her direction. And she knows them and they know her as a thief, but she's not thieving right now. She's doing this show. It's a legitimate show. Only we know that she has accomplices in the crowd. And as the narrative progresses, we realize that these accomplices are far from ordinary, but there's a slow reveal on what they are. Now, as to the world, it is your classic medieval-ish, but with magic type universe. Coppelia herself is an orphan, we find out in the course of the book. Her parents, she had parents, and they and her came to this city for reasons to do with the fact that this city is known to have a lot of magic, and it's got a magician's guild, and it's got the high archmage. And throughout the world, it sounds as if people who are artisans and have got a little bit of magic that will make their carvings that little bit better, or their artwork that more polished, or for that matter, their thievery based on instinct a bit better, all these people converge on this city, which is meant to be this center of magic. And that's the storytelling world. Now, if you haven't read this book and you're likely to read this book, I think you should probably go away and read it or listen to it and come back in a minute. First, I want to mention mine was an audio. I was listening to it going, wow, this narrator's really on top of things. It's like it's a good narration. They've got good intonation. Their involvement in the events that are happening is really good. And because it's from my library, it didn't tell me who the narrator was. When I went online and checked, I do believe that the author has narrated his own book. And if so, he's as good a narrator as he is an author, and kudos to him. If it wasn't him, I apologize to the actual narrator and the author, but I've got no idea. Blame Libby. My Libby app won't tell me these things. Anyway, that was the final thing I was going to say. Everything else is essentially a little bit or a lot of a bit spoilers. So maybe if you're definitely going to read this book, go away, read it, and come back. First spoilers, which are smaller, are the fact that Coppelia's accomplices in the crowd are little people. They are the little people on the cover of the book, which is why it isn't a huge spoiler. But how they are revealed in her life is really well done. And the fact that I knew nothing more than the cover of the book made the reveal really good for me. So it turns out that Coppelia has been contacted by these little people. And I gather that the reason why they contacted her is that because she's an artisan who is carving more little people. She's carving them as puppets. But their point of view is a bit different. So they are magic, and I've forgotten their name. It's small, funny names like Tick and Chack or something like that, and I've forgotten them. But the idea is that all these little people were created as a race by this master magician in a tower far, far away, and they were created long, long ago. And you've got different kinds. Coppelia's best friend and advocate is made of wood. There's another one who's made of metal. He's also on the cover of the book. But other ones are made of things like wax and paper, all sorts of weird, wild stuff. Anyway, these images that we would think of as puppets or dolls have been made, and then they were imbued by this magical spirit from the part of the magician, and so they came to life. And that was fine right up until the point where the magician went into some sort of fugue and wasn't available anymore. And these little people kept on living, the made things kept on living in his tower. And then some robbers came to break in, and the made things dispersed. Some, we think, stayed in the tower, but they've gone to all these different towns. And a small cadre of, I think, 7 of them moved into this town where Coppelia lives. Now, Lorentz. It's called Lorentz. That's it. Town of Lorentz. So the city is ruled by magicians who are hoarding their magic. The small made things want to acquire that magic, and they often doing that through thievery, which is how they created a bond with Coppelia, who was a thief. So they're thieved together, but she also is trying to make more bodies for them. It's a really, really cute and fun book. In many ways, it's light. It feels like it might be aimed at young adults. I can't always tell, but it could well be. Certainly Coppelia, who is on the far end of childhood or the early end of teenage years, comes across as young. And the themes, even the darker themes, such as abuse of power on the part of the cops and the magicians, and the narrative of when is thievery right and when it isn't, those sorts of things, which aren't really all that childish or light, it's still an easy book to read, and it's a small book to read. So if you're fond of the Peter Rothfuss books, he had this one little book called, I think it was Aurelia, that's this tiny, almost sub-novella about one particular character in The Name of the Wind. And this book, Made Things by Adrian Tchaikovsky, gave me the same vibe compared to his more intensive work that he would seems to mostly go for. This is a fun little gentle fantasy suited for any age group, really, and I did thoroughly enjoy it. Now, since at the moment on YouTube everyone is going outside and showing us these marvellous Welsh castles and beautiful woodlands, I thought I'd give that a go. I tried to film this outside with Rainbow Bay in the background, and it turns out that I have no skill as yet for filming outside, but I will try to attach a picture of what you would have got in the background if I'd have been able to do it. Anyway, thank you for watching. Read good books. By all means, read this book because it was a good book.